Well, Canada is providing Ukraine with another $500 million in military assistance. This is in addition to the $3.4 billion Canada has provided to Ukraine so far this year.
So for more on this, we're joined live now by the Minister of National Defense, Anita Anand. Minister, thanks again for joining us to chat about this. So let's break down where exactly this $5 million is going towards. I know it's going to help the military, but in what aspect?
Okay, Canada has already committed more than $500 million of military aid for Ukraine for things like M777s, munitions for the M777s, Carl Gustaf anti-tank weapon systems, armored vehicles, and the like. So today's announcement is that the Canadian government is adding another $500 million on top of the additional original payments that we've been making for equipment and military aid. And so we as a government have committed $1 billion plus for the military effort for Ukraine. And this is extremely significant. Obviously, Canada is going to stand with Ukraine in the short and the long term with the provision of military aid, with training additional Ukrainian troops in England and Poland. We've already trained over 34,000 Ukrainian soldiers since 2015, to be clear. And also we're transporting aid. We've transported over 5 million pounds of aid on behalf of our allies from our operation in Prestwick, Scotland, where we have 3 Hercules aircraft.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about insignificant amounts of money at all. I mean, we're talking about billions of dollars here, Minister. What is your sense of speaking to Ukrainian officials about the urgency here, and how quickly can this money and aid flow?
In the first iteration of the $500 million that was committed in budget 2022, we were able to spend that money on required equipment and supplies for Ukraine in a matter of months. The money was committed in April 2022, and by the end of June, we had made sure to spend it for Ukraine. So we are engaged in a very rapid contracting process, and we will utilize that same approach with the $500 million that was committed today by the Government of Canada. We will be looking at equipment in the health sector. We will be looking at equipment in satellite. We will look at equipment in communications and additional ammunition, etc., because we need to stand shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine as it fights for its security and sovereignty. And in this regard, I am in very close contact with my counterpart in Ukraine, Minister Alexei Reznikov. In fact, we've been in communication today about this additional $500 million. And of course, we will continue to supply military aid to Ukraine.
And Minister Anand, today we learned from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Melanie Joly, announcing in Bali that, they're imposing more sanctions. Canada's imposing more sanctions on Russians, but we also know that Russia is imposing about 20 sanctions on Canadians, including actor Jim Carrey, which I found interesting. So in terms of helping Ukraine to fight, is sanctions kind of a game of the past? Is now investing money to help them fight the war the long game? And can I ask, how long-term are we committed to that? Is there a ceiling to the amount of money we're willing to help them with?
It is a very good question, because as you point out, there are a number of different pieces to the way in which Canada is responding. And so I would, rather than thinking of these pieces as being mutually exclusive, they are layered one on top of the other. So we have sanctions and additional sanctions being levied against the justice sector in Russia today. We have military aid, humanitarian aid, economic aid, and in total, not including today's announcement, we have committed over $3 billion of aid. So again, not insignificant numbers, but really we need to think about it as comprehensive aid across multiple sectors. Why? Because we believe in the sovereignty of Ukraine and the rules-based international order, which has kept us all safe since the end of the Second World War.
Okay, Minister of National Defense, Anita Anand, thanks so much for joining us again. Take care.
Thank you so much. Take good care.